would like to discuss and show a little bit about the next generation social media management today. And we have lots to talk about, so let's be quick about it. And there's smart data, there's proactive outreach, and there's messaging bots. And Thomas.
Yeah, perhaps just a short, brief introduction from my side. Thomas Wilde from VICO Social Media. I'm CEO there, and we are the social business division of VICO Group, about 600 people in 15 different countries. And for social media management, we're tightly partnering with VICO Analytics, them focusing on analytics, monitoring, web crawling and so on, and us with the part of engagement and outbound activity. So, when you would start?
Yes.
Good. To start things off, we want to talk about 2-3 megatrends we think will influence what social media management will be about in the next couple of years, because there's some key changes to the market. The first is not that key and not that new, to be honest. It was Brian Solis a couple of years ago coined the term of digital Darwinism, or the ever-changing mechanics of communication in the markets. I'm always picturing this as if you're sitting in a theater, you're looking at a play, you see actors carrying out consumer behavior. And now everything starts changing. You see new lights, you see new backgrounds, and you see music stopping playing, and some actors drop out of the play. They can't keep pace with the changes of their surroundings, and so they basically drop out. They lose communications, and their campaigns go south. And there is, just to give one example, when you, probably many of you saw the last Facebook Developers Conference, Mark Zuckerberg made it pretty clear that they're massively behind B2C messaging, capitalizing on WhatsApp, for example, capitalizing on Facebook Messenger. This will probably once more be one of these key changes that will trigger some people's dropping out of the race, dropping out of consumer behavior. Click it back, sorry. The other mega trend, if you will, that will affect how we do social media is probably automation. Also, all of you have for sure heard about this. It was McKinsey who published a nice research paper just a couple of weeks ago, where they came to the conclusion that about 60% occupations will see more than 30% of the tasks that have to be carried out by the professionals in an automated way. Of course, for us marketers, that's nothing new. Everybody who works with email marketing, for example, knows that automation is a key and integral part of our work, and that how we work determines, and how we automate determines if we really can commit to the 20% of our work that makes 80% of the effect, and do so very high quality and very focused. So automation probably for marketing, at least that's my personal hypothesis, is about getting rid of clutter, getting rid of the 80% work that contribute only in 20% to our goals. So where does these two megatrends lead us when it comes to social media? We see the accelerating socio-technological shifts in the market, communication that keeps changing at an ever-increasing pace, and we see the rising degree of work automation. And this brings us to 3 key innovations that we will today look how we can dig a little deeper, and what these innovations will have an effect on social media marketing. First is the field of smart data and artificial intelligence. Second is the rise of B2C messaging, WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger, and so on. And third is engagement automation with bots, for example, but that's just one example of these. And we just cycle through marketing, customer care, overall management, governance, performance management. I think we'll see some very interesting findings about this. And spoilers to wrap it up, I think in a nutshell, it's about 2 things. It's about detecting opportunities, new leads, hot leads, cold leads, proactive service cases like a bad customer review on Amazon, finding all these little events that you can capitalize on, and, well, then execute, act on it, and leverage the potential. And I think with these set of technologies, we're able to do so on a much bigger level than we were able to do so before, And what we always have to keep in mind when we're looking at these things is, can we do so profitably? Because I think there's no doubt in the room that if we would head out the door and start building huge data centers and hiring hordes of data scientists, you can create awesome customer experiences and follow up everything one-to-one, but that simply just wouldn't bring a dollar for companies. So I think these are the three pivotal points: looking out for opportunities and detecting them, executing and capitalizing, leveraging the potential of doing so in a profitable way. Before digging into the different disciplines of social media management, I want to shed some light on how the market looks today, just so we're all on the same page. And therefore, I went through some surveys, some recent surveys. And there are three primary motivations for bringing up the social media programs that we can see today in the market. First and foremost is still fish where the fish are. If my customers are there, if my leads are there, I probably have to be there in some way too. Simple as that. Second, a little more elaborated, social media engaged customers more profitable, they're more loyal, and they grow faster. We already have cross-industry figures about that. I think the community is still discussing the direction of the causality, but we have that correlation, that's for sure, and we can capitalize on that. And last but not least, when it comes to customer service, the service case resolution is up to 80% cheaper if we compare it to a service case resolution on the phone. And it's even more cheaper if you can further automate with artificial intelligence and bots. So this really brings money to the table, because I think it's established it makes sense to be present. Nevertheless, we see only 80% of major businesses, which, by the way, is a blended sample. It's Fortune 1000 companies, Forbes top 200 companies. We see 80% of businesses having an elaborated social media marketing program set up, 60% with customer care, and about 1 in 5 companies that have cross-functional governance or quantitative metrics to measure their success. And at least at the end of 2015, 1 in 2 CMOs would tell you that it's still unclear to their organization how their social media marketing program really works out, what the overall effects is and what the inner dynamics are. And another recent study from Freie Universität Berlin and MLU Munich revealed that the #1 killer of overall program efficiency is the alignment between different actions, between let's say content marketing and publishing, and engagement and dialogues on the other hand. So that's basically the scene where we think that all these innovations in the form of next generation social media management tools will really provide value for anybody here in the room. And this is where we want to dig a little deeper, go through the different disciplines, starting with social media monitoring and analytics.
Yes, let's go back to that slide and not to spoil all the points I've written down there, no worries. So we have asked the question, what's new on social listening? And we see lots of trends or lots of developments because of technology. There's image recognition, there's topic detection, and all of the interesting stuff technology-wise. And I usually tend to talk lots about technology. Today I'll try to focus a bit more on other stuff and don't do the deep dives. So at the market in social listening and the social listening tool landscape, we see things getting mature. Things tend to be more on execution. So I want to get an ROI, I want to execute, and we see in the landscape that there are suppliers that disappear from the marketplace because they don't bring value. There are some nice cooperations between specialists on social listening and other platforms. And we see also some BI providers, and that's an interesting part of smart data, entering the market and adding social media modules to analyze data at a large scale. There's also much more data that is produced, and smart data and artificial intelligence help us to understand that data much better. Now, what's the connection to execution now? How many of you guys work in marketing or in online or e-commerce, Anyone? Almost everyone. So probably one of your main goals is to sell things or to even increase sales due to marketing or any other stuff you do. Your base mission is to sell more products, or one of your base missions. And we believe that next generation social media management needs to execute on that. The likes, comments, and so on, they are nice, but they don't count. What counts is revenue and how much you sell. So in your daily work, you listen for social signals, and lots of you, as we have seen that, 80% of the Fortune 1000 companies do social media management, and they listen to social signals, and that's information you use to improve your products, to sell your products. But we believe there's more data to that. So our first statement is social is but one data input. That means there's not only Twitter, and there's not only Facebook and the long tail forums and blogs. We also believe that you are interested in data like price information. For example, see a drone. We have a drone case at our booth, and here at Amazon you can see price. That's an important information for marketing, especially when you look at different shops. How do other suppliers price their products? There's also an important information on ratings of products. So what do actual buyers of your product think? What's the actual rating they give to your product? Is it going better? Is it getting worse? And how do you compare to your competition? And you may not want to set up a huge data center and BI landscape to analyze that data, but there might be an easy way just to pull that into your listening tool and correlate that data with social signals, with other e-commerce based data. Then the next thing we believe is that you have to handle the information overload. So with all that data, you need to make sure that you don't waste your time. Thomas talked about routine work. 80% of the work that people usually do when they analyze data is cleaning up the data. And we believe social tools should do that for you, or listening tools. We also believe that those tools should execute on very specific use cases. And there are lots in social listening, obviously, most of you know them. And if we pick just one case here, customer service, and we'll look further on engagement later on, there's lots of things that we can do to make sure you're getting productive very easily by selecting the right data, not just listening on everything, not just listening to all the noise, but just filter out the right data, add product ratings and reviews. Make sure that tool also provides you with enough spam filter technology so that you don't read unimportant stuff or spam. And then also the aggregation. I mean, what information do you want to aggregate, and who do you want to present it to? That's a use case based. In the form of customer service, we are interested in every single service case. So we need each single document. In a marketing campaign, we might need the bus by hour. So it depends on the use case, how you aggregate your information. We believe that tools should be flexible enough, but also provide a very good prepared way of building your use case. The third part of next generation listening is about making that information accessible to all the people in your company. It's not only you that need that information to work, to make your product better, to make your customer service better, product experience, or the marketing campaigns. We believe that all or most of the people in the company should learn from social, and that it should be possible to get external signals into a company and make make information transparent, and that's why we think visualization is a key aspect of next generation social media management. So there are companies who present social signals on a daily basis, on a high frequent basis to all their employees. In the canteen while they go for lunch, they can read what people think out there about their products, how they execute on their products, how happy they are with their service. But we also think that lots of people can make use of social listening signals without actually using the tool itself, because usually you have some key users, but there are also lots of people who can make use, so you would want to make it native for them. They want to get an email once in a while saying something happened, but they don't have to go into the tool and have a huge workshop and get all the things done and then forget about it and waste time getting back into that. So it's about how you present that information and who you present it to, and we think your solution needs to be very flexible for that. Tools are great, and automation is great, but tools alone don't work. Our sales chief, Yesha, he's always saying, we have great tools, and tools help you doing lots of stuff, but you need people, and you need the tool to interact with those people. As I said before, we believe that lots of the work can be done by tools, but we should focus our tools on helping people doing what they are best at. Meaning reducing all the clutter of the work, as Thomas said, reducing all the noise, and then just picking that parts of the information that are very, very interesting and that you can execute. And we believe there's a cycle of work, and it's build, learn, and execute. So you start using your tools, you learn from it, you have the right strategy, and then you learn what happens in the tool. You have listening capabilities, and then you experiment, and then you can change again. You can add other components, but you always have that cycle of getting insights, employing tools, and learn from it and then change. That's the fourth part of what we see in social listening. And the last part, where we believe is some key component, is data. And we believe data is key, data will be key. As I said, we think there should be much more data than social that goes into your information process. And that data is valuable, can be seen by lots of signals from the market, especially in the US, where we have seen in spring the acquisition of LinkedIn for lots of money, and that gives us an idea of how valuable data is and data will become. And that also gives us an idea of what will happen to the social listening landscape, because networks like LinkedIn and Facebook and maybe even Twitter tend to focus on data privacy. So as a social listening tool, you're not always able to look into that data. For Facebook, it's nearly impossible. There are some mechanics that you can do. For LinkedIn, you may be able to, look at your own channel, but that puts us in a position where we have to find ways of getting qualitative information from elsewhere. We think that's information that we will get from the long tail. Not by long tail, I mean domain-based communities. There are lots of forums where we have quality communication that become more important. There are lots of rating sites, question and answer portals. But also we see a rise of one-to-one communication messaging apps where you don't have access to, and you only have access to your own channel. So the trend from our side goes in adopting and monitoring lots of different channels on different platforms rather than watching just one single network, and social listening needs to adapt to that as well. Also, it should be able to prepare lots of data and send that into data lakes of other companies, meaning lots of companies build their data analytics internally, and social listening signals should add into that data stream as well. And with that, I'm handing over again to Thomas to talk about, with all those signals that we identify and that we clean and pull in from review sites, from forums and blogs, how are we executing on that in terms of to make money?
Yeah, thank you. Well, essentially, what do we end up with? We end up with a huge pile of possible events or opportunities, things that we could or could not act up on. So it's basically generating more work, because we have to sort it out. We have to figure out where does it make sense to interact, to join, to participate, to publish our content, to contribute, and where doesn't it simply. If you would put that into a campaign template or something like that, you end up with this pattern of proactive outreach, meaning there is something out there and you reach out to them. Of course, it's conditional. You don't have to always engage, you don't have to always contribute, but generally you end up with such a pattern. You have a monitoring or a data source that triggers events, that give you these events, and with the a specific amount of data, you're able to compare this to events you had in the past that are hopefully stored in your social CRM database. Because there you have it, there you have your engagement teams, your customer care teams, having dialogues with customers, seeing different profiles and act on them. Try to convince them of your product, try to do service, try to convince them to remove a negative review, whatever, and you have them coded. Did this work? Did this not work? What did I tell him? And in which cases did it work better, and in which cases didn't it work so well? So this is where our two companies interact pretty nicely for 1 year now, where VICO delivers this real-time stream of events on which you could act on, and we take that in our application VIConnect and try to figure out, using artificial intelligence and smart data methods, if we find something similar that helped us in the past, that went good in the past, that has been coded as a success. And this also helps us to find out what kind of opportunity is in this profile, is in this post that our colleagues at VICO found. It could be from leads we should start nurturing, it could be a churn candidate we want to prevent churning, or it can simply be an opportunity to position our brand and to do proactive service. And well, the rest is handling fulfillment as we know it today, and a vast variety of systems, all triggered and handled in this case by VIConnect. We were fortunate enough to roll this solution out to a couple of our customers, and right now they're very happy of doing so. And what we learned is that the pattern is that we start with a very narrow set of cases of these kinds of opportunities, and then you add one by one to add new types of dialogue, new types of micro campaigns, new types to handle and opportunities to act on. That brings me to more of our part, which is the engagement part, the interaction part, and handling these events on a one-to-one level, where we need all these before-mentioned things like bots, like messaging platforms, and overall engagement automation. First, I'm always a friend of making sure that I'm dealing with the right kinds of platforms and that I'm looking to the right direction. Well, basically you have a similarity here. And why is this so compelling, or why do they think they have an actual chance? Well, we have a usability problem, or a conceptual problem with apps that probably all of you are familiar with. Because an app, if you think about it, is always narrowly centered around a specific use case, or a set of use cases. So your calendar is about adding, removing, editing meetings, and that's it. And your email app is about sending, receiving email, and perhaps distributing them across folders. Unfortunately, my primary use case is communicating and calendaring at once, and I have to switch back and forth between these two apps. And this is the fundamental flaw. And basically the hypothesis behind this perspective is that we as social human beings have a primary app, that we spend lots of time in this communication, that's messaging, and that every once in a while we summon an assistant, a digital assistant, a bot that helps us in different aspects. And this is where the platform thesis comes from. These bots can help us with entertainment, with information, with shopping, of course, with booking, reserving resources, allocating resources, and so on. I think this is where at least Facebook and other big players are moving into this direction. And then it hit me. Basically, this is what we as a company are all about, or have been all about for a couple of years now, because we always said that what we do is to enable professionals to easily, collaboratively, and authentically engage the smart connected consumer. And we want to do so on a large scale. And here we are with a concept that does exactly the same, and now we have a nice word for it. Of course, we had a little bit different in mind than a bot like we saw it in many demonstrations that are around the web. I brought one on the next slide as well. For the next couple of minutes, I want to dig a little deeper and look what exactly is a bot, or what can a bot be, and what use cases are there, and what different kinds of user interfaces can it present to us. This is a simple example, probably many of you saw that. It's just two people hanging out on Facebook Messenger and then summoning a bot where they say, hey, I have to book a flight. And the bot starts presenting input fields, so they could basically enter a search query. They search for flights. And the bot posts its replies, the search result. You could page through it. In the meantime, you could always continue your communication, and then you agree, oh, well, let's buy it, and head on to the checkout process. That's one part. That's the part of having another user interface and probably good usability if your use case fits. You can even split the check, and then you're done. So the other side of the story is that you, of course, save tons of money if you automate these kind of dialogues. If you automate things you had previously do in person on a one-to-one level, you save lots of money. And when I look at the cost of service case resolution, and again we picked a study from McKinsey that provided some actual cross-industry figures, you could see that you could save up to 90% of cost per service case resolution when switching from phone down to social, and then using an enterprise social media tool set that allows you to automate and support every single agent that works in that team, and even further automate if you employ bots to take over a part of, or that actually take over a part of the talking. How can we picture this, or how can we think about this? Well, when we built this into our product architecture, we said, okay, we have, of course, we have something like custom bots. This is the lowest bar here, and that's probably a part of your product, a part of your service, where you previously probably had an app, or you still will have an app, but you have as well a bot that offers your very service, example, flight booking. But there are other areas as well where we would want to deploy bots. One being collaboration automation. When I have teams dealing with this incoming stream of opportunities, I will probably have them pre-sorted, pre-routed, and served readily for consumption, if you will, as a team. That's the left column. In the center, we see marketing and engagement tooling. And again, this is basically, it's nothing new. Everyone who's working in email marketing knows that we already work with a high degree of automation. And I think we will see a similar high degree of automation carried out differently, but we will see a different degree of automation brought over to social media when it comes to nurturing and one-to-one working with different leads, or conducting service and satisfaction queries, etc. And last but not least, we have a set of bots for the customer service case that, for example, pre-qualifies a service case, meaning basically it asks missing information so that the overall service case resolution can be sped up a lot, even before the service agent is ready to pick up that specific ticket. So there are different fields of application for bots, and they all work in a different way. While the left-hand side bots probably are more like digital assistants to your team that cater your team and aid them and automate part of their work. On the right side, we have bots that are more like more autonomous, if you will, and are able to carry out complete customer dialogues, customer conversations, as with the nurturing example. And this is one I brought to make that specific point. Imagine you're in a business selling a service like Netflix or Spotify or something like that, and you had an awesome social media campaign, many engaged customers, and and many of them respond, well, I'd start the trial, but right now I have my contract running and it's too much work. This would be an event that you would pick up in your proactive outreach campaign that your monitoring would identify, and that's something that NurtureBot would identify as, well, this is probably a lead, but he's not ready. It's a cold lead. I have to nurture him sometime, and we should probably ask him if we were allowed to come back to him and get a verbal permission to come back to him and opt in, if you will. And we, for many platforms, we have to do so on a technical level as well. So I have to ask the customer or the potential customer, can we come back to you? And I have to make sure the platform that I'm technically able to come back to that customer. This is what NurtureBot does. And afterwards, of course, he contacts the customer again. Hey, we thought we could talk again, and may I connect you to a colleague to subscribe you to a trial, and then the bot could hand it over to a human agent or leave the lead in the lead pool to continue nurturing. Of course, this is the most simple example, most simple approach we could think of. You could build many more steps in there. Everybody of you who works with marketing automation, campaign and email automation, of course, knows this. I think what we'll finally end up with is something you could see as a 24/7 digital concierge. And I stumbled upon this metaphor, I think a year ago, and I heard it in a talk, and I was instantly convinced. Why? If you think of concierges in your hotel lobby, they are basically a service person, but also a power sales guy, because they tell you where to shop, which restaurants you should go to, and they do upsell. They tell you that the spa is still open, you can have a massage or whatever. So they already blend marketing, sales and service into one person or into one conversation, if you will. And what bots and proactive outreach patterns will enable us, at least from our opinion, is that business can build their own 24/7 digital concierge, catering their services, doing proactive customer support, always in their role as robots, if you will, not replacing humans, because I think that would be a fatal mistake. But with this technology, we're now able to offer these kinds of premium services for comparatively low cost and do so in a profitable way. Some things we learned during the first product we conducted this way is that everybody, and this is nothing new, but I have the feeling that we have to say it over and over again. We're now at a stage where it all comes down to execution, ROI. If you generate reach or share voice or whatever, it's always nice, but it really is at execution and ROI and generating leads and closing these leads. You have to think of customer experience first. If you think about bots, it's very hard to say globally these kinds of use cases fit for automation, these kinds aren't. It depends on your brand, for example. It depends on if your customers accept talking to a bot. It depends on your customers want natural language processing bots, because it's a whole different user experience than a bot like the one I showed you before on Facebook Messenger that offers you basically buttons to tap on. And if you think of a bot that you would want to interact on a daily level and you would have to use natural language to do so, it's probably very complicated. It's much simpler just to tap different buttons than always have to type or to say whole sentences. So you have to very closely look at this specific use case and check if the user experience will be right. The next lesson is don't automate what people are meant to do. There are always these, there's still this 20% we're talking about that make 80% of the impact, and where you need your force, your creativity, and that always should be in the hands of humans and capable beings instead of machines. They could basically automate it, but you wouldn't get all the potential out of this. And we think of these bots as passing onto them pre-sorting and preparation tasks, and basically eliminating all the 80% of work that only contribute 20% to your goals. Then there's this old pattern of build, measure, learn, and I think it has to be applied here, because all these things are about user experience, about your customers accepting the technology, your customers accepting the overall feeling. There is no blueprint that can tell you this is the way to go here. You have to go out there, try it out and figure it out for yourself, and to test it and to adapt. And last but not least, but I think this is probably clear to all of you, you should never pretend to be real when you simply aren't. When customers find out that they are just talking to a machine because this machine handles something really odd, I think there could be no horrible customer experience than talking to a fake human being. So that's it for our thoughts around next generation social media management. What we basically did, or what our mission is we try to build every one of these components we talked about into our applications, into our frameworks, and into our consulting practices. And we're really looking forward to sharing more thoughts on this with you. And if you're as well, visit us down the booth and